Alright everyone, I got a long drive downstate today and I thought I'd talk about the day that I first test drove my truck and the day that I fell in love with this motor and this truck, and why I still have it today. So I thought we'd talk about in depth what it's like to own a 7.3 and work with it, play with it, travel with it. In this case today, I'm dead empty driving with my 7-pound Shih Tzu, and the F350 is really rolling heavy, right at its max, payload, max towing capacity. We're right up there today. We're nice and empty. So I figured that I'd talk about what other things about a truck, matter a little bit too. So getting right into it, I doubt very many of you are towing 100% of the time or working with your truck 100% of your time. And if your truck is built into an overlander, I doubt you're overlanding it 100% of the time. So it's got to do well at other things. And a 4-door short bed does quite well at a lot of things. It's perfectly good for parking. I'm going to actually have a doctor's appointment downstate today, so I have to park in a parking lot, hopefully not a parking structure, which obviously it's short enough to get in, but not my favorite place to be. So it does a good job for doing other things. I joke all the time about getting pizza in my F350. You got to use it for that too, and for that it's quite good. We're rolling down the road right now. In fact, anyone's from Michigan, this is M33. I'm sure many of you guys are who are from Michigan are quite familiar with all the fun that can be had up and down M33, from the Ausable River to all the different trail riding opportunities in many different campgrounds, and you can get to Fletcher's not far off M33. There's just some really good stuff up and down M33. So the 7.3 liter gas is so smooth to drive. When you first get into a 7.3 and drive it, you're going to remark at the bottom end torque getting you going. You're going to remark at the fact that you don't need to get up 55 mile an hour. You only need but maybe idle to 1,500, 1,600 RPM unless you're in a big rush. If you're in a big rush, then you can enjoy the solid top end. I'm not going to say that this engine has the best top end because it doesn't. The camshaft is ideally set up for bottom end and mid-range torque. You can clearly feel that the engine doesn't have as much at 5,000 RPM and up than it does, 4,000 to 5,000. It's really its top end sweet spot. After about 5,000, you can feel, I'm not going to say it's freewheeling, it's just that it's not building up there. And that's fine, because if you are swapping this into, say, a Mustang or something light and cool, or a pre-runner or something like that, simply putting a camshaft in is known to up the power output to about 600 horsepower. A camshaft. So that tells you that the heads are clearly able to support nice power. In this configuration though, it's smooth, it's quiet, it doesn't have any sort of lumpy idle or any kind of surging or anything like that. It idles around just like every other vehicle, except for it's a 1-ton truck that has a 445 cubic inch V8, and I can't think of anything more interesting and fun than that. If this truck as a whole was available in the 90s, in the 2000s, it would be revered right now as, holy mackerel, this is the performance truck of the century. Well, the performance truck of the century is right now. This thing has everything you'd ever ask out of it to be a performance vehicle, an off-road vehicle, a towing vehicle, a daily driver, a commuter. This thing does everything. And it does everything well with a simple engine that's relatively cheap to replace. Compare the price of a complete crate engine of this engine to even a short block 6.7 Power Stroke, and you will know right away what I mean by this is a much, much cheaper engine. Well, you're going to have to pass two of us. Oh, no, you're going to go in there and cut off my braking distance. Thank you very much. Everyone is in a rush these days. Leave on time, people, and then you're not in a darn rush. So I wanted to make the video in this section. We call this the roller coaster road. And it's simply jokingly that, this should be interesting. Oh, no one came. That's interesting. So these hills are pretty substantial. We're going 55 right now, and we're behind the semi-truck, and I'm not really itching to, get pulled over by the Rozzers today. I wanted to see how it'd do. You know, it's empty. Yep, it's going to throw a downshift to 8th. So we're in first overdrive right now. Oh, we went into 7th to clear that. As you may imagine, if you had a trailer behind you, you'd be doing the exact same thing. Clearly, it's not able to hold triple overdrive going up these hills. But that's not a bad thing. These are some nice little short but steep grades, and I wouldn't expect anything to hold overdrive. If you have a diesel, you're probably going to hold most of your overdrives. Actually, I'm looking forward to getting my 450 on this road because it'd be really interesting to see if it downshifts out of 10th. I'll tell you right now that my 6.7, it was a 19 6-speed. I guarantee you it was going into 5th going up these hills with anything behind it, and it was barely able to hold a 55 6 gear on these hills. And usually that big one like we just went on coming up this way is rather steep. We just went down it, but when you're going north, it's pretty darn steep. It would go into 5th, you know, going up that hill empty. So keep in mind that that's pretty acceptable performance. There's another one coming up right here. We'll talk about it. But this engine just has such smooth manners. Think of 6.0 gasser that actually has some bottom end and mid-range torque. Super smooth from idle to 6,000 RPM. No hesitations, no weirdness, just smooth. And the other thing is it's quiet. Now, some of you may know, because I've mentioned it a little bit before. First of all, I've had a long history of trucks. This is by no means my first truck. This is my, well, I own like 8 trucks right now, but I've only sold like 3 of them. But so I've owned a lot of different trucks. Most of them in my past have all been fancy mufflers or straight piped or something of that nature. Cummins has always been straight piped. Actually, I put a muffler on my Cummins because I'm old now and I like silence. And it's still rather loud with a 5-inch straight through muffler. Somehow Ford managed to achieve, because keep in mind, all back pressure in a gas engine, and don't confuse scavenging with back pressure. Scavenging is not back pressure. Scavenging is a pulse, not back pressure. Back pressure does not create horsepower or torque. It costs you horsepower and torque. So any amount of restriction in the exhaust system, and you can literally measure power loss for how long your exhaust system is. If you have a 3-inch pipe, let's just say, and your exhaust system is 6 feet long versus 15 feet long, say in a diesel, or excuse me, on a pickup truck, there's literally a power loss with everything else being equal just by having that much more pipe. It makes a difference, trust me. Free-flowing exhaust makes a difference, but it's loud. I can have a friendly conversation with you and my 6 passengers that I could have and have had in my vehicle. And it's so nice to have that quiet. And I'm sure you can hear when you're going up these little grades, the engine has a nice rumble. It is so well tuned from an MVH perspective. It gives you everything you'd want to have. And yes, I did see his brake lights blink. What is he trying to do here? He's probably checking his brakes, what he's doing. Oh, no, that's what he saw. Always heed the warning of the people in front of you. We clear on this side? Yep. Yes, we are. Thank you, sir. Always heed the warning of the vehicles in front of you because they probably know something you don't. The NVH tuning in this truck, it is just right to tickle your performance fancy. I love, first of all, Ford V8s generally sound absolutely amazing. Has to do with firing order, has to do with their head design, has to do with chamber design, has to do with their exhaust layout. Fords in general sound pretty good. 4.6s may have been some old school motors, not old school, I guess they're over at Cam's, but they came out in like 93 or 4s when the first 4.6 came out in the Crown Vic, and then they were around the F150 and all that stuff. They never sounded bad. They may not have been performance powerhouses. They always sounded good. 5.4s always sounded good. 5.8 Trinity sounds good. The Coyote, the Voodoo, they all sound good. And the 7.3 is no different. This engine sounds nice. Maybe I can toss in an exhaust clip. Being that I don't have aftermarket exhaust, it's kind of like a little bit lame to like try to like brag up. And no, I didn't just say Trinity because it says that on his mud flaps. Just notice that that's actually the name of the 5.8 liter 2013-2014 GT500 Shelby motor. But it's funny that it says Trinity right there on the... That is my autism at work, you guys. Yes, I noticed that after just saying it, okay? Oh, God. But anyway, what I do for a living is investigate car accidents. And therefore, I have very in-depth conversations with different people on very technical subjects on a regular basis, including my father, who I work for, and who I love and respect extremely dearly. Having a loud exhaust makes it very hard to concentrate on difficult things. And it also means that intricate conversations can get lost. Now, if you want to have a good excuse to take your phone call from your wife and, yep, honey-do list, yep, I'll do it, yep, pizza tonight, no problem, whatever, yep, talk to you later, no problem, bye-bye. You probably don't need to worry about having loud exhaust. But if you're going to have technical conversations in your vehicle, like a lot of people do, or if you just love to communicate with the people that you're with, having a quiet exhaust is nice. And having that balance between sounds good, isn't too loud, is really important. And it really, exhaust is, besides tires, are one of the things that people upgrade the most often. And for me, loving a good sounding engine, I'm very content and very happy with the way this sounds, because I wouldn't want to have any more, because it's going to start degrading my ability to have conversations within my vehicle to people within it, or to conversations with people outside the vehicle on my phone. So I guess that's a sensory thing that I think makes a lot of difference when you're spending a lot of time in this. I got like 230 miles shooting down south right now. You got to be happy in your vehicle. And this thing provides both, I guess we'll talk about the truck for a second, it's not really the engine, but the brakes feel good, the handling feels good, the steering is very tight. I don't have adaptive steering because I don't want it. I like my base model truck, I like my gauges, I like normal person gauges, not stupid digital screens that I'm going to have to pay $1,000 to fix. I just really like everything about this vehicle. It tickles every bit of the fancy, the first cool, the second cool, everything else. It's why I fell in love with this. I test drove this truck as a joke. I was a diesel owner, and I will be again, by the way. There's no diesel hate on this channel. My F450 I should be getting a VIN number, in fact, this month, which is very exciting, which F450s only come with the diesel engine. This engine in this truck has been a perfect match for what I do. I'm so happy that I got this truck. And it was a joke when I test drove this truck. I saw it in the lot. Now, keep in mind, I was driving my 2019 F350 diesel with a front E-locker added into it on 35 12.5 mud tires, 17-inch wheels. So it was pretty well tailored for a lot of the stuff I was doing. However, I had realized in riding in one of my best friends has a 2015 6.7 Power Stroke, white Lariat, in really good condition. Has almost twice the miles, actually, has twice the miles that my truck had. And interior-wise, it was in better condition. My truck had gone camping, it had gone hunting. I damn near lived out of the thing. And not in a homeless situation. I was working on a property, and we basically my buddy and I lived out of the truck for about 3 weeks because we were trying to crash trails through the property as fast as we could to get the trail network done, or at least enough done where you could actually maneuver yourself around the property. We literally ate in the truck, slept in the truck, camped in the truck. Like, it definitely degraded my truck, and I noticed it. I had Michigan pinstripes all down the side of the truck from wheeling it. I had to kind of realize that my youth of wheeling my daily driver needed to end, and I needed to have a designated tow rig work truck, presentable, looks good in public. Here's the other thing. I was out of warranty, and I was heavily considering doing some exhaust modifications to my truck because of rattles, because of squeaks, hitting railroad tracks, if you guys know what I mean, exhaust systems break off. I had some service work that needed to be done, and I was considering doing that service work. And to be entirely honest with you, I didn't want to deal with the crap. I didn't want to deal with the unknown tuning, the unknown customer support after the fact. I didn't want to make the truck louder because, again, I like a quiet truck. So there's actually some advantage to having a DPF equipped truck because you get all the performance, but it's quiet. So, and I get that having a raspy, cool sounding diesel sounds good, and 6.7 sound great deleted, but they're loud and they drone and they make some noises. When you're going up a hill right now, my conversation with you would be going up this hill right now, as opposed to my truck that is entirely silent. And I'm doing the exact same thing that any other truck would do. And guess what? I'm holding 10th gear going up this hill at 55. This is a really nice powertrain, and this isn't a 430 gear truck. I am super curious how much I would adore a 430 gear truck. This is a 373 gear truck, giving up a couple thousand pounds of gooseneck rating, if I'm not mistaken, to have the 373s versus 430. There were 0 430s in the lot when I got my truck. This is a first year truck. It was built in August, so I would call it a mid-year truck. In other words, they probably fixed some of the problems, but then there were some other ones. I had both. My rear axle had to be replaced at about 10,000 miles. Front axle had to be replaced. They all went at the same time. Front axle got rebuilt and a new knuckle put on because the knuckle was machined over spec and causing the vacuum to leak out of the hub. I'm told that those problems are fixed. I want to alert everyone that my opinion has not changed. Avoid buying a first-year truck at all possible. It doesn't mean the truck is bad. First-year trucks have issues. But then again, first-year trucks can go forever. I know people with a 2011 Power Strokes that have 400,000 miles on the damn things, and they're original. Stock turbo, which, stock turbos are bad. Stock CP4, everything else is stock, 400,000 miles, perfectly running. They exist. First-year trucks, some of them are great. Some of them have problems. Mine had a couple little problems. The engine's been well proven. They only upped the torque level, 10 foot-pounds of torque. Don't know why they did it. Wanted to make sure they still had dominance in the field, which they did. Very good. It's nice having a class leader, is I guess what I'm saying. Someone had brought up, with a couple of these problems you've been having, and I'm going to back off this guy just a little bit, give him a little bit of space. I'm kind of surprised, being a shorty truck, why he's having trouble climbing these hills, but whatever. He doesn't have a Trinity 5.8 liter supercharged engine in that pig. I love the big front axle, the 650, and the big trucks with the 4-wheel drive. Doesn't matter. So excellent powertrain. Would be curious about what a 430 gear truck is like. I'm sure it's excellent. I'm sure I prefer one would like it because I don't mind having more RPMs. As you guys can see, I'm cruising right now at about 1350, let's call it, at 56 miles an hour. So, and we're going to slow down for town. So we're not going 56 mile an hour anymore. But very fair, and if anything, I definitely could give up a couple hundred RPM at 55 mile an hour to gain the other advantages of having a 430. So I, for one, would definitely not shoo you away from 430. I like my truck. Uh-oh, something happened. Boy, he's really eyeing me down. Maybe he had a problem with me filming as I went by. As far as I know, I don't have shovel.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Michigan 33 South, Michigan 72 West.
Anyway. In Fairview right now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the little bitty town of Fairview. Let's talk about fuel range. I have a half a tank right now. I got fuel many days ago. Was driving around back roads, exploring, taking my daughter to the lake, taking my daughter...
Turn right onto Michigan 33 South, Michigan 72 West.
Efficient tank of fuel. 11.5 is what it's showing. A lot of dirt roads, a lot of exploring. Like I said, took my daughter to several parks, several lakes. We had a nice little birthday weekend. And it was not an efficient weekend. So we've gained already a mile a gallon just by driving south. Even so.
Continue on Michigan 33 South for 45 miles.
79 miles on it. 9 hours and 10 minutes of driving on it, and we're still above half tank. I can go all the way home or all the way from my house to my cabin on 1 tank of fuel easily, even when towing. That is amazing. So that's another great thing about this truck, because it has a decent sized fuel tank and because it's very, very efficient. And someone is going to say 11.5 is not efficient. It generally, when you're not wasting your fuel driving 10 miles an hour down dirt roads and exploring and whatever, this truck's generally a mid to high 14s on average empty. And I've had it hand calculated on a full tank of fuel above 15 many times. So this is actually a very efficient powertrain. Super duper efficient. And I love that about it. I love that I can go and do the exact same things with an engine running on 87 regular fuel. And I think that kind of brings us, I've talked about 20 minutes about how much I like this engine and where it fits in for me. And I want to conclude it with this. And I'm sort of reiterating a couple things, but this is a pretty big debate in the truck world. To diesel or to not to diesel. Is gas better? Is diesel better? They both have their strengths. They both have their weaknesses. They both have their applications of which they are best for. This engine makes owning a gas engine less of a compromise. And in many ways, it offers enough advantages where I think that is definitely worth doing. I'm not in a big rush. I could have gone around him, but I'm not going to rush. Not in a big rush. So, I left early. So that way, it looks like I'm going to be about an hour early for my appointment. So that's good. So anyway, it run, and as you see, we briskly got up to speed, I would say, and we're shifting at 2,300, something like that on that shift. It gets up to speed pretty darn well. It's quick. It's downright fast. If you 4-wheel drive, traction control off, spool it up, this truck flat rips. If I was 18-year-old me in this truck, I'd get in a lot of trouble. We'll just put it that way. It's a very fun truck. It is so easy to upgrade this platform into something like an off-road vehicle, whether you're doing overlanding or trail riding or just, good off-road performance for hunting out of it and things like that. So easy to improve the off-road performance of this truck. That is a huge plus. But the gas engine, it's light. You can feel the difference up front. Now, I will say at heavyweight towing, and I've talked about this before, the ballast effect of having the heavier diesel engine, especially with a bumper pull trailer or a conventional trailer, I think it makes a difference to have the ballast of the diesel. When you get on the brakes or when you get on the gas, the ballast of the diesel in the front of the truck tends to help keep the front end firmly on the ground. I think there's an advantage to being a heavy diesel when you're towing really heavy. By that I mean 14,000 pounds and up. Anything under 14,000 pounds, this thing just eats it for breakfast. Literally not even a thought in the world. 14,000 pound conventional just eats it for absolute breakfast. It doesn't even care that it's back there. Chassis wise, braking wise, stability wise, which I suppose is chassis wise, engine wise, transmission wise, it's amazing. Single wheel, short bed truck, it really has a huge amount of towing performance, and there's very few people that are actually towing more than they need to have the gasser for. Wow, it is blowing like steak. Something to consider, and like I said, I'm kind of reiterating some of my points that I've made before, but I think they're important to point out. The biggest and most important reason to buy a diesel is if you commonly drive through the mountains and you're towing heavy. The exhaust brake is worth every single cost, annoyance, headache, irritation that a diesel could ever provide you. The diesel's torque and the diesel's exhaust brake is worth it in the mountains. 100% for sure. Most of Michigan. Oh, nice chipper. Most of Michigan is flat. I don't have those same issues. This truck will tow its rating at the speed limit without any hesitation. 18,000 pounds, this truck will tow its rating, gooseneck or conventional, 18,000 pounds. It'll tow it and keep the speed limit without a problem. And if anything, it'll be downright sporty at the speed limit. Now, if you're towing up that heavy, I think anything over 15,000 pounds on the regular, I think you need to get 430 gears. And I've mentioned that before. But I think it is so awesome to be able to have this level of performance running 87, the cheapest fuel at the pump, which is ironic because diesel should be cheaper than gas, but ignoring that, it is so cool to have this, and especially through the entire previous administration where the fuel prices were very high. It was so much fun running the cheap fuel, and because of the range that this truck gives you, I was able to catch the sales. So fuel might have gotten up to 350. I wasn't buying. I was waiting until it dropped down to 315, 305. A couple times I caught it at 290, and then I'd go for weeks and not buy fuel because I don't have to commute most of the time and things like that. And I would selectively buy fuel and plan ahead for trips. And because of the range this truck has, 500 miles is not too hard to do. For sure, 400 miles with not a crazy trailer behind you is doable. Huge range with this truck. And it makes for a really easy ownership experience. And for those reasons, as well as the fact the truck holds its own. We're bound by speed limits, guys. And I highly recommend that you, from one previous habitual speeder to another, it does make a difference to avoiding collisions. And speaking from accident construction perspective, if you're speeding and other people are expecting you to go the speed limit, and you're speeding, you're covering more distance over the same amount of time. They need to be looking farther down the road for you to avoid pulling out in front of you. If you're speeding and they're not doing that, they're going to pull out in front of you, and now it's going to be up to you to avoid the collision. So if I could say to myself, my younger self, avoid the speeding, save the fuel. When you have that constriction over your head, and yeah, we're coming in a mile right now. I got a buddy whose dad lives down Cherry Creek. When you're abiding by those speed limits, the 7.3 gas, unless you're towing over the Continental Divide or doing routine Appalachian Mountain passes, is going to tow basically everything you guys need to tow and still have performance to spare and get good enough fuel economy and good enough range to constitute having the cheaper fuel. So that is my takeaway and why I still love this truck. I still think this is a great truck. I have absolutely fallen in love with this truck, and part of the reason why I test drove it and then decided to buy it was I was hoping that I was going to buy something that I wasn't in love with, because I have such a big problem with that. I have a huge issue with falling in love with tools, and it's not a good thing when you're trying to work them and this and that. I've fallen in love with this truck, and it's not going anywhere. So I hope you guys have a similar experience that I have. I would never hate on anyone for buying a diesel, and there will be a diesel on this channel hopefully shortly. The sooner the better, right? And if you guys want to see that, and a lot of people have already said they want to see it, so I'm already going to do it, but the comparison between very much a top dog gasser versus very much a top dog diesel, and seeing where the chips all fall, and potentially directly comparing cost of ownership and all that fun stuff. There's a lot of potential in that conversation. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the drive and talk here. I hope you guys all take care of yourself. You stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day.